work in PointBet, and I would like to show you a video that is part of our marketing campaign. It is not public yet. It's going to be launched in 2 weeks.
Want to know the secret to how we took sports betting to the next level? We got the answer.
Give them more than anyone else.
The most unique markets, the best prices, the easiest app. We built the sportsbook bettors have been waiting for, so they can stay focused, stay on top of their game, stay sharp.
So Ashley came earlier to the stage and actually said that we're going to launch this year. We actually launched 2 weeks ago. And Talend was a major partner in this journey, and I'm going to share with you in this presentation of how we got to where we are in such a short time. So short introduction about myself. I'm the business intelligence and data analytics lead in PointsBet. PointsBet is an Australian company. We're a bookmaker. It means that we are accepting bets. You can hear from my accent that I'm not exactly from Scotland. I moved to Australia 3 years ago from Israel. And my team is building an immersive data analytics system that it made up from 3 main parts. The main thing is data warehouse for business insights, data analysis, client segmentation, product analysis, everything that you would use in a classic data warehouse in a business like ourselves. The second thing is data engineering and integration with our data science quantitative team. Basically what it means that we're pumping data from one side of the business to another. So different stakeholders could do their job. And the last thing that was mentioned here multiple times is real-time reporting. In such a moving-paced industry, we have to have real-time reporting for basically every aspect of our business. When you are into gambling, when you are presenting 2 odds, for example, for an ABN match, there is a lot of data crunching at the back of it. And in such a data-driven business, when the data is actually your product, data analytics is the backbone of everything. So, couple of in a way interesting points about PointsBet. So we started in Australia and now we're going global. Our main differentiator is that we have a unique product offering that none of our competitors in Australia or in the States have. And I'll explain. Let's assume that I'm looking at an NBA match and there are two teams and one of them will win. In classic fixed odds betting, you can bet on either of the team to win. In points betting, which is our product, you are actually betting on the score itself. Let's assume that you have a game that you think is going to be a high-scoring one. And let's assume that you're going to back 200 points. That means that every point that the game is going to end up with higher than 200, which it might, you're basically going to win the stake times the point that it ended. For example, if the game ended with 220 points, you would win $20 if you placed $1. But it could also come against you. If the game ended with 170 points, you're going to lose $30. And this kind of points betting system could be translated to, for example, how many seconds will pass by until James LeBron will shoot his first score. So if you're a punter, a gambler who likes engagement and excitement and thrill from start to finish, you'd like to bet on this product. And this is, in a way, our main differentiator. We grew up from 6 people in 2016 into over 130 now. 30 people of our whole company are based here in the States because we recently launched here. We have, in addition to PointsBet, 3 main differentiators that makes us ideal for the US market. The main one is that we always specialized in US sport betting. NBA, NFL, and some baseball, those kind of sports were always been our foundation. Fun fact, in Australia, NBA betting is the biggest sport. And when you're looking at the American sports, such as NBA, NFL, and baseball, those kinds of sports are highly suitable for this kind of product because they are very volatile. You have a lot of action going on, a lot of score, a lot of moving parts, and it means a lot of engagement from our users' point of view. The second thing is the approach that we took into getting all of our products up and running. If you look at our size and you look at our data science team and data engineering and our IT team, and you compare size to size with our competitor, our quantitative team and data engineering team are roughly 4 times bigger than our competitor compared size to size. What that means that we could have better product offering, we could automate more things, and we do everything that we do. We just create a process, CI/CD, push it, and automate whatever we can. That eventually what you end up with is a lot of products and increased revenues for your business. And the third and one of the most important things is that we are purely cloud-based, or at least until we enter the state, we were purely cloud-based, and I'll explain about it. What it means that we are aimed to scale. We can scale all of our infrastructure, and I think a couple of guys before that mentioned it exactly what it means. I'm going to get to that later. So let's start from the finish. Let's start from the end. Last month, we went live in New Jersey. That was one of the first states that legalized sport betting. We finished soft play. We got signed off by NJDGE, New Jersey Division of Game Enforcement. That's the regulator that dictates how everything is going to be. And we're live. We are legally allowed to accept bet in New Jersey, and the system is already up and running. We went from having no representation in the States 6 months ago to launching our product now. In order to understand how we got there, we just need to get a bit of background about the business opportunity that we saw. So 6 months ago, roughly, the Supreme Court lifted a ban that was in place for 26 years on sport betting in the US. What it means that now every state could choose if it wants to legalize or not legalize sport betting. And New Jersey was one of the first states that actually did that. We caught the wind of what's going to happen a couple of months before that, and we just tried to position ourselves using our proprietary technology. We own all of our product, all of our technology stack, and we're based on the cloud. So in our mind, to scale or to enter the US market was a no-brainer. From number-wise, the business opportunity is huge. Just the general, if you look at sport betting and you take out the US, you can see the numbers in here. If you see the overall numbers in the US market, it is now estimated between $150 to $500 billion a year. It's like those numbers are amazing. And if you look at it compared to the Australian market, it just dwarfs it. Just to give you as a point of reference, in New Jersey alone, in the month of October, only 3 months after sports betting was launched, it already overtook Nevada. New Jersey overtook Nevada if you compare it year to year. And 72% of all of this activity happened on mobile and online platforms. So what are the business pains that a business like ourselves have? First thing, we're growing so fast that sometimes it actually hurts us. We went from 6 people in 2016. It means that our marketing manager, which is one of our founders, could just go to one of the developers and, hey, could you please build that feature? No, please step away from the developer. We have delivery manager, we have leads, we have development manager. We have to change a lot of the culture in the organization. Saying that, this is something that gave us a lot of flexibility. We're still trying to maintain a flat structure. Another thing is that we need to differentiate ourselves from the competitors. The Australian and the UK market are very, very, in a way, hard markets to compete with. We need constantly to expand our product offering. We need to have better services, better UI. Everything has to be better. We keep fighting all the time. Australians are the biggest punters per capita in the world. And for that reason, the industry is highly regulated. In addition to that, you have quite high taxes and product fees, which are different things. And you end up that you have to pay 40% tax overall for every dollar that you're making. It's kind of almost a race to the bottom in Australia. In New Jersey, New York, the tax overall is 14%. So for us to look at this opportunity and not go, it's something that we could not think of not doing. And the main thing, everyone that built a BI system knows that having unique common language in our organization is crucial. The thing is, when you're working with two different countries, the terminology sometimes changes, and this is an interesting pain point that we'll talk about it. So why cloud? If you look at sporting events of how it, in a way, happened at the back of it at an infrastructure level, it's, I think, the only thing that is similar to a terror attack. You have such a spike for a single event in your whole resource demand and the traffic and user engagement and the product that you offer that is sometimes 200 times more than your regular day-to-day. And 2 months ago in Australia, we had the Cup Day, which is the biggest punting event of the whole year. 3 of our main competitors just crashed. We managed to not crash, which is awesome, which means we could basically absorb all the traffic that we anticipated. The thing is, in addition to that, we actually got all their traffic because when people want to place a bet and our competitors are offline, they came to us, and we managed to absorb that as well, thanks to cloud technology. You just scale it up, have more server, have resources. If your infrastructure and your product are designed to purpose to do that, you can actually achieve that. But here is the tricky part, which is not that nice. When we entered to the US market, we could not use just the cloud because of regulations that New Jersey has. What it means that we physically have to store the data in the state of New Jersey when the bet was struck. And it has a lot of GDPR and PII aspects that we had to deal with. It basically turned our whole beautiful, nice cloud infrastructure into a hybrid infrastructure of having on-prem data, having the cloud, and now Talend Cloud, and we'll get to that. In addition to that, our data engineering software stack is not that common. When I'm saying not that common, it means that we sometimes struggle to find documentation of how to do proper data analytics on it, and especially when using Talend. As you can see, we're based in Azure. We started there, pretty happy. But why did we decide to change? Our business is growing explosively. It's just skyrocketing. People like our product, like our offering, like the way that we approach stuff, and we just have to support explosive growth. The second thing is we needed to have a stable solution. In our previous solution, before we actually migrated to Talend, we spent a lot of time on troubleshooting because our whole, in a way, stack was the thing that we saw like made until the point that we needed, okay, that we understand we need to scale. Saying that, we are still a startup. We have to move fast. We have limited resources. And the last and not least is the connect everything to everything. What you can see on the right here is an imaginary device that I took from an old IBM commercial that's called UBA. It's a universal business adapter. It connects everything to everything. If you saw that ad, you know what I'm talking about. If not, after the talk, watch it. It gets to the point. We wanted to connect everything to everything. When we're a startup, I'm not trying to connect my Salesforce to my SAP. I need to connect one component that no one has ever seen because I built it to another component that I haven't finished building. We needed a solution that could support that. So as of now, this is our infrastructure here in the US. In Australia, it's completely cloud-based, just because the different regulators work in a different way. Personally, I believe that having on-prem is actually a security risk. It's a vulnerability. I personally don't understand why the regulator in New Jersey wants that, but it doesn't matter. They dictate the rules, and in different states, we might end up with different architecture. The important thing is to have the flexibility in order to basically customize our infrastructure according to the regulator. We have multiple remote engines on multiple environments, and this is in a way how we run our show, and it's been proven to work quite well. So how did we end up with Talend? I'm going to tell you a bit of a secret about myself. I've been using Informatica since 2004. And before we realized, okay, we needed to move from our current software stack to something that could scale, I did what any good engineer would do. open Garden Magic Quadrant and look at what is relevant to myself. You can see here on the circle that IBM, SAP, Oracle, those are no-go for startups. You would not do that. So we tested Informatica and we tested Talend, each one for 1 month. And personally, once I saw the Informatica offering, the Informatica Cloud, and then Talend Cloud, I realized, okay, I need to take a step back. It's not the Power Center that I know, it's a completely different product. And the good thing about it, that when you stepping back and remove all your biases, you see the bigger picture. And for me, Talend was a clear winner. It was a clear winner after extensive testing that we did to our infrastructure. We needed to see that we can make ETL, ELT, and migrate data, and integrate a million things. And it just won by knockout, not even by points. The main thing that for me was important is the Git. Talend has Git support that the other competitors don't have. If you are actually building a proper software stack and do proper CI/CD and following SDLC, software development lifecycle, and you want to scale, you have to have Git. It's not even negotiable. The second thing is the way that the license and the cost of Talend is being built. So when you're a startup, especially when you're a flat structure, spending, for example, 100K on a tool is a very important and expensive decision. And when I keep pumping to our execs, for example, I'm going to our CEO, our CFO, our CMO guys, we cannot continue to work like that. We need to scale, we need to scale. We need to find a better ETL tool. If the moment after I go to the CEO and tell him, okay, we're gonna have to spend 100K, the moment after he spilled his coffee on the table just from freaking out, if it gets more complicated that I have to pay more for connectors or other services or stuff that I don't get in the suit, it just won't fly. I won't take it up because I'm just going to look absurd if I cannot tell my exec exactly how much you're going to pay for that solution. The third thing that was a major role in our decision to go with Talend is the local APAC support. It was just great if I'm comparing it with the other type of evaluations that we had. The responsiveness of a couple of hours every time that we needed something, in opposed to 24 hours round trip that I had, for example, with Informatica. For me, it was like death by 1,000 cuts. It's annoying. And I'll get to that on the next slide. And this is big thanks for the APAC team. The fourth thing was the community that Talend, in a way, grew organically around it because of the way that Talend, in a way, ideology of Talend, of being an open source. If I compare Talend to Informatica, it's a bit like Android and Apple. In Android, you get open source, you get you can do whatever you want. In Apple, it's more of like a closed garden. If I need tomorrow to connect another component that I don't have already in the Informatica suite, I have to wait for them to build it, in opposed to Talend, which we actually did that. There's a company called CData. They built a connector for zero-hour accounting software. I could just pay a couple of hundreds of dollars, and I'm just buying off-the-shelf connector instead of developing it. How great it is. So let's look at the evaluation process that we did. Personally, I believe that if you want to test something right, you have to touch it in your hands, you have to shake it, you have to see that it's working. From software engineer point of view, the only way to do that is to take whatever solution that everyone tells you that it's great and it's working, and just push it to your software stack and see where it breaks. If, for example, it doesn't integrate well with Git, we don't have Git, great, you're out of the window. If you don't integrate well with our CI/CD, you're basically going to slow down our deployment and we won't be able to scale the way that we want, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to that, once you spend, let's say, a couple of weeks on evaluating a solution like Talend, your team, the engineers, are part of the process itself. You have their buying. Everyone decides, okay, this is the tool that we're going to have, and internally, it's a much easier experience to go through. Evaluation is great, help it happen. Second thing, in a way, is the way that we build our current, in a way, infrastructure and stack. Luckily, we are a couple of pretty much experienced ETL, data engineers, and software engineers, and we knew from a certain point that in order to scale, this thing would not work. So when you're experienced enough, even when you make a mess, I call it organized chaos, you can compartmentalize your spaghetti code in silos and when you're actually doing the migration, you can just drag and swap one part of the time, well, one time of the part. And at some point, we actually had, I think for a week or two, both systems are old stack, and talend just calling each other using API, and basically we did a very soft migration, which I believe in it. The third thing is the evaluation process itself, and this is, I think, something that you might not see it from our side, but when we allocate resources to evaluate a product, that means that my team is working, instead of delivering value to the business, doing something that allegedly has no values. I have to fight up, basically to push up, towards the top with all my execs, the CFO, the CMO, the CEO. Guys, we're evaluating, just give us some time, I'm not delivering any value to the business. And from the bottom to my team, if we don't have the right support and they're frustrated, you just have like to fight up and down. It's not an easy thing. Help us do it right by having proper support. Proper support would be documentation that is relevant to the software stack that your client is using. For ourselves, for example, Microsoft Azure, we struggle sometimes. And a lot of times, again, thanks to APAC support, we discovered how to do it, sometimes with them, and we would like to have more support. Another thing is, and it ties back to the evaluation process itself, context switching is one of the enemies of a software engineer. Every time you have to jump between evaluation and delivers and et cetera, it's painful. It's a really funny thing sometimes to build a solution that you know you're going to kill really soon while still building the new one next to it. We actually had to build the new talend skyscraper before the old one just collapsed under its own weight. And it actually happened a couple of weeks after we migrated completely to talend. So a couple of lessons that we learned from this whole process. Soft migration, hybrid. Don't try to boil the ocean. It never works. If you think you're going to work on a data migration or data engineering project for 6 months and you're just going to turn the key and it will work, forget about it. This is not how the world is working. This is not how nature is operating. Start small, start very small, and grow. Ideally, I would like to have pay-as-you-go subscription to talend. You're going to pay $1,000, $2,000 a month or so, have a couple of tutorials of how to do that, and only when you get to a certain mass, okay, then you're starting to be actually working with an account manager and stuff like that. The second thing, the remote engines, that was really good for us. In Australia, talend is not deployed in any cloud. But what we managed to do with the remote engines, it's just deploying it in every environment. Even here in New Jersey, in the States, it gave us a lot of independence, and it gave us, in a way, streamlined CI/CD process that we just deploy to wherever state that we need according to regulations. I think this is one of the most interesting slides in this presentation, and just to understand the quantifiable business benefits and how talend was heavily used during our expansion to the US. So first of all, because we managed to do things faster, we had better client and basically better client and product segmentation logic. We managed to increase our revenues because of that. In addition to that, we saw how users are using our product, the different product offering, which product work better, which product are not, and we can all the time fine-tune our models using data engineering and the quantitative team to just, in a way, all the time massaging it until we get to the sweet spot. The third thing that was, talend play a major role in it was working with the regulator. So working with regulator could be a very painful experience if you don't have the right tool for that, especially in the era that we're living, when you have GDPR, PII, and costume regulation in each state. What we managed to do is to work with NJDG to the point that were completely trusting us. I'll give you an example why it was so hard. Sports betting is a new thing in the US. No one did that before that. No one knows what it is. The only thing that US regulators know is casinos. So you try to shoehorn a lot of the definitions of what they perceived as being regulator and what we have. Let's look at an example. They wanted to see how much bets are being placed in each session. So if you look at casinos, every time, I don't know, when I'm sitting in front of a blackjack table or a slot machine, I'm pushing the handle. Okay, that could be a session, and we can understand what game is it. When we're looking at mobile sports betting, what is exactly a session? From the time that I opened the app, from the time that I logged in, from the time that I placed my bets? Interesting. I don't know. The important thing is when you work with regulators, there is only only one right answer. The answer is no problem. Whatever you want. Yeah, that's what you want to be the session. Great, this is what we're going to give for you. We had to change our ETL process on the fly in our dev test environment when they were sitting next to us until they were happy. You cannot do it with hand coding or with any other solution that is not proper ETL tool. I didn't know the theme for the event before I came here, but it's fast and trust. And if this not fast and trust, the definition of fast and trust, I don't know what it is. Eventually, after the regulator you gain some credibility, and they could understand, wow, those guys can do everything. They own their technology. Everything is on the cloud. Everything is so flexible. Yeah, we completely trust you. Just give us the revenues. Okay, that report is not good. Let's spin that data cube, slice it differently, et cetera, et cetera. Some processes that we estimated to be 2 weeks work of development, for example, self-exclusion, when a user is asking not to, basically that we kick him out of the system, you actually have to work with database of NJDGE and see how everything works. We estimated originally for 2 weeks of work, and using Talend, we managed to have it in production in less than a day. So what are the benefits from tech point of view? First of all, happier developers, happier teams. Instead of trying to troubleshoot stuff and to shoehorn stuff into the cloud and say, okay, how it works, how can I hand code that to work, you just get more free time. And free time, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. When people are bored, sometimes bad things happen, but when people have a goal and you have free time and you are creative, oh, I can do that. Oh, maybe I can do that. The developers are putting their heart and souls, and it's a delight to work like that. Second thing, we mentioned it at the beginning of the slide, improve system stability. We went from roughly 8 hours a week troubleshooting our previous software stack into maybe 1 hour, just because we have more visibility using the Talend Cloud. The second thing, when you're working with jobs, all the components, everything is laid out. You can double-click into a mapping component and see exactly what's happening. We have better visibility with our stakeholder. And a lot of the conversations that we had internally is, for example, when our CFO, hey, can I connect our finances accounting software to our posting transaction model and to see if the P&L, the profit and loss, is actually reconciled? The conversation went from like, if we can do that, to how long it will take. So let's see what's the road ahead. So this slide actually needs to be updated, I think, from the point that we created it. Things actually changed for the best. So we're actually live in New Jersey. And you can see here state by state the different in a way, current situation of the bill that will allow live sport betting. I cannot disclose a lot of the talks that we have now, but we probably going to expand really fast, really soon. Second thing, in this era of cloud and moving so fast, I think that the only constant is change. I'm already started to think about our next technology stack. We'll have to destroy what we have now and rebuild it again, and we always have to fight another battle. You never win the war. You win the war by just not staying back, but you all the time have to figure out what's your next decision that it's going to be. And for us, it's going to be the consolidated data, because in each state, you'll have data that is relevant to that state. You won't be able to get the data raw from that state because of the GDPR. So you'll have to mask some of the data. How do you consolidate it when you have different BI terminology in every state? We're looking at all kinds of solutions. We're still not sure how we're going to build that. Snowflake looks very interesting. the last thing is a project that we're going to work probably this year is, I call it the disposable data marts. We have, in every event, you have something that's called market liability. For example, if everyone's going to place their bets on single market or a single outcome, it exposes us as a bookie, as a bookmaker, to basically losing a lot of money. Again, the world is not perfect. Hybrid is the right, I believe that hybrid is the right approach. And we're probably going to use some kind of streaming solution to get data from the queues of our system, have real-time jobs that will keep cycling. We're going to build a data mart that is going to be less accurate because some packet might get lost in the way. We don't get like the complete vision of exactly what's happening in that market, but we will be in a good enough position to make a decision. A couple of hours later, the slow, heavy, moving beast of the data warehouse will come and you get precise data of everything. But the thing is, it's like, in a way, sending a scout before the rest of the team is coming, just to understand what's coming your way and to make a smart, conscious decision. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any question. And again, thank you for inviting us and PointsBet to be here. It's been an exciting journey. We're still in the middle of it. And thank you.